We are Steve and Jill. Together, we've been buying and reselling land since the 90s.
Our data-centric approach leaves our buyers asking, how can you sell it so cheap?
Here on the Land Academy Show,
We answer that and more. Jack and Jill here.
hello.
Welcome to the Land Academy Show, entertaining land investment talk. I'm Steve and Jack Busala.
And I'm Jill DeWitt, broadcasting from the Valley of the Sun.
Today, Jill and I talk about risk. Specifically, the riskiest thing you can do is to take no risk at all. And it's funny, Jill and I were just talking about this title. She's like, well, wait a minute. I'm not really understanding what the hell this is because I don't see any risk in what we're doing at all.
Totally.
And
I'm like,
it
wasn't registering for me. I'm like, I had to read this title 3 times and process it. And then I'm like, I hear what you're saying, but I don't think I'm not feeling it. And we'll talk.
You have to take some element of risk to get any reward. Mm-hmm. It's just a universal concept. And we'll talk about choosing things that that appear to you to have no risk, like buying and selling land. I don't see any risk in that, but some people do. So we'll talk about it in a second. Before we get into it, let's take a question posted by one of our members on the landinvestors.com online community. It's free.
Hey, and don't forget, go to Land Academy's Facebook page or somewhere in social media and sign up to join me live Thursday. I didn't even tell you what time it was. Thursday at 5 o'clock. I had to think about this. 5 o'clock Pacific time on the 15th. It's going to be awesome. All right, so the Stevens brothers wrote, when getting leads from DataTree, do you think it would be a good idea to only get records from leads? Wait. Do you think it would be an idea to only get records of leads that screen off the last sale date and the last recording date in the most recent 3 years? Am I reading that right?
Yeah, I'll explain it.
Okay.
I'll paraphrase.
In other words, only get leads at the last sale date or the last recording date was before before November 2019. Have a nice day. Okay.
We pull ownership records out of DataTree as a group as part of doing a blind offer campaign. And so if you think about a zip code, in the universe of that zip code, there's a bunch of land that sits in that zip code, and we pull the records for people who own that land and do a bunch of stuff to them, scrub the data, and get it in the mail. We use those records to generate offers to send to the mail. And so very often, and we teach this in an incredible amount of detail, how to do it step by step in all of our education and on the Thursday call. And it's really kind of what Land Academy is about. Mm-hmm. What these guys are asking is, hey, would it be a better idea to mess with or alter in some way the 25-year proven concept that Jack and Jill have
tested,
purchased, and sold more than 16,000 deals with? I'm brand new at this, and I think I have a better idea.
I know, and exclude the people that have transferred property in the last 3 years. Which
means those are people who are used to buying and selling and comfortable with buying and selling land.
Right. So here's my point to this. Well, that's great. However, what about the sweet little old lady that just got the property in her name because her husband passed on and it was a probate thing? You just took her out of your list.
So guys, we're not picking on you. We're seriously not. This is a very good question, and I'm glad you asked it. It gives us an opportunity to, in a playful way, answer the question. No, it's not a good idea. What you're doing is making your mailer smaller.
Yeah.
And you're specifically excluding people that, and this is not, I'm answering the question obviously the way I would answer it, but there are many other people in Land Academy Discord that are saying the same thing I'm saying here. Mm-hmm. You don't want to make your mailer smaller. Specifically, don't want to exclude situations where people are changing, the property's changing hands recently, so their mind is open to changing hands again.
What about the person that just bought a property 2 years ago and lost his job? You just scrubbed him out of your list. There's so many things that I can think of.
We've said this a lot of times.
To keep to tell you why it's valid to leave them in.
People were looking for a situation. Jill's right. Mm-hmm. There's all kinds of social scenarios that happen that lead people to choosing to sell their land.
Right.
And so you don't want to exclude those people at all. The cost of sending mail and data against the profit that we make on these transactions is tiny. It's a tiny small percentage. So every time I scrub out data, I think to myself, well, what if this is the person that's going to call Jill back and say, I absolutely want to sell my land. Thanks for sending this mail. Your timing, sending this offer. Your timing's perfect.
Exactly.
I'm ready to sell. So no, I don't. And I'm glad you asked this question, but I'm
going to go look at this one. I want to see how many other comments that people wrote that like mine to say, I bet there's 10 situations in there. Like, based on what you just said, I wouldn't have bought this property. I wouldn't have bought that property. Mm-hmm. Like, I have several right now that I could say, if I had done that, I would have missed all these opportunities. That's the main point.
Today's topic, the riskiest thing you can do is to take no risk at all. This is why you're listening. So let's take a 35,000 foot view at this sentence and put some examples to it. What if Steve Jobs never took a risk?
Talk about a risk, working out of the garage.
What if Steve Jobs was a programmer like he was supposed to be? He and Wozniak just worked side by side in a cube till they were 65 and retired.
With IBM.
What if Bill Gates said, I'm going to stay in college and buy farmland. That's all I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. So these are obvious, or Henry Ford for that matter. These are obvious examples, and they're extreme examples, but we make decisions like this as our land investors every single day in and day out. What if I buy this piece of land? What if I don't? What if I join Land Academy? What if I don't? What if I'm going to skip a bunch of steps. I'm not going to send out mail. I'm going to send out postcards. So there's a lot of tiny little decisions that we make that we all may either knowingly or subconsciously associate risk with. Yeah, this mailer is going to cost $5,000. There's some other stuff I could do with this $5,000.
It's true.
I see this as a huge risk, and I need this $5,000, so I'm not going to do it. So I'm not selling anything one way or the other. And Jill alluded to this at the beginning of the episode. I do not associate any risk with buying and selling land.
Well, before I get into that, will you please explain what you were telling me before we started the show about people because that struck a chord with me. The people that just stay in their jobs. So, and I'm not picking on anybody, and I know this is not for everybody, but for those of you who there's a twinkle in your eye and there's a little I think there's something more because I'm here to tell you, I didn't know about this. I was with one company for 17 years. Yes, you are correct. I don't look that old. But before you even ask, I'm just going to answer. You're right.
Jill started working when she was 12.
How could that be? You don't look that old. Nope. Let me tell you, I was with the same flipping company, American Airlines, for 17 years. And I thought that was it. I didn't even, and I didn't even think it was for me, and so I'm here giving some real world
can I tell you
experience
something?
On this.
I'm
Go ahead.
Always fascinated. I've known you for a while now, for 15 years we've been together. I'm fascinated when you talk about this period of your life because it doesn't seem like
it's me.
Because the person I know now would never do that for one day.
Because I drank the Kool-Aid. I'm third generation American Airlines. My grandfather was a mechanic in Tulsa. My dad was a pilot. And so here I am off the MD-11. Haven't talked about that in a while when he retired. And then here I came American Airlines, it's a family business. Duh.
Oh, jeez.
I know that was not right. So I wanted to travel. And so then I drank the Kool-Aid. So I was not, it's not that I wasn't. So here's what happened to me. I was not risk averse. I didn't have anybody showing me the way. I didn't know. And then what happened was the more time I spent there, I just kind of settled in, and I believe what they said, about, they have a thing called max pay. Can you imagine? Every level in that company has pay. There's pay scales.
This is America. There's no such thing as max pay.
No, there's max pay. So so you would work to be max pay at that level in the company. And when you're at max pay and you're getting your first bid for all your vacations, why would you want to leave? That was kind of the thing. So, fast forward to midlife crisis. So that was the catalyst here. But lucky for me, I got I got out, and it was so interesting. All my friends, it's like my friends were there and behind bars, like, let me know how it is. And I'm like, I was 1 year, not even 1 year out of American Airlines. I'm like, you guys got to do this. There's life on the other side. And boy, I've times 100 I was doing there.
Oh, geez.
Easy.
No comparison.
And then, so I took that leap. But it was me. There was nothing happened. I didn't get laid off. I didn't get fired. Nothing. I just said, I gotta go. I know there's more to me and I'm sick of this. And I need to do something. And it was that time of my life. I'm like, I need to make some changes. I'm not getting any younger. And then, fortunately, within 2 years of that time, I found you. And you and I joined forces, and here we are today. Doing awesome. But so my point of saying that story was, I want you to know I understand that side of it and being afraid. The beautiful thing is, there's lots of things that you could do in the evenings and the weekends until you really feel comfortable to really take the leap. And I encourage you to do that. Make sure it's right for you, But what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to give up something. You're giving up your nights and weekends. That's the big thing. But I promise you it'll pay off.
Well, and it's not necessarily buying and selling land.
True, that's what I'm saying. I'm speaking to whatever it is. This is
not about buying and selling land today. This is about taking a look at what you really think is risky and what's not risky. So obviously, Jill, for a while in that job, saw no risk in it.
In the job? Or
in her job, in that 18-year job, saw no risk in it. That
could have been risky.
I'll tell you, my version of Jill's story is this. I jumped around from acquisition position to acquisition position for several years, always buying and selling land in some way, or real estate, I should say, in some way on the side, knowing full well that the riskiest thing that I was doing at the time was walking into that W-2 job in the morning. For some reason, it's not like my parents sat me down and ever did that. I didn't really have real working examples of people going off on their own and taking a huge risk and being successful. Right. I just knew for some reason that, and I'm not special, and Jill's not special about this. That's just how it happened. But in the end, you have to actually look in the mirror and say, what's the riskiest thing? For me, it was that W-2 job. For Jill, it was moving out of that. It's easy to say, I have all these bills to pay. There's no way I can do this. I get that.
Yeah.
But you have to, it starts with forget about the money, forget about whatever responsibilities you have. If you have that in your soul, I need to take some type of risk doesn't seem that risky or what makes sense to me, then you got to do it. Mm-hmm. Is that making sense? Mm-hmm.
No.
Maybe you see absolutely no risk in coaching hockey on the weekend for extra money. And maybe that becomes this is a true story, actually.
Business.
Our third and final child played lacrosse, and the guy that was the lacrosse coach started a equipment store. Yeah. An online equipment, because he was tired of watching his players pay so much money for even used equipment. So this guy figured that out and supplied all kinds of lacrosse equipment. Mm-hmm. And he didn't see any risk in that. He's like, these guys are paying too much. Mm-hmm. I know over here where to get it a lot cheaper, and I'll just put these people together. Mm-hmm. So there's something that you see risk-free. But like the title says, if you take no risk at all, there will be no reward.
It's true.
Your job is to decide for you what the lowest risk scenario is when you do take a risk.
Perfect. Happy you could join us today. 5 days a week. You can find us here on the Land Academy Show.
So now the episode on the Land Academy Show is called How to Complete Your First Land Deal. You are not alone in your real estate ambition. Enough of 2 days of you guys talking about what can happen theoretically. Can you just tell us how to buy a piece of property and resell it for 10 grand? It's
the end of the year, and a lot of people are thinking about 2023. I know we are. And so we want to cover some big topics, get you really thinking what's possible. So there's just so much out there. It's amazing. Thank you for tuning in. By the way, Jack and I are very aware that not everyone has $100 grand or whatever it is lying around to buy and sell land. So we, just so you know, along with many of our members, fund land deals every week sometimes every day. So check it out. Go to landfunding.com. And if you have any questions, feel free to send a note to my team via support@landacademy.com.
We are Jack and Jill. Information
and inspiration
to buy undervalued property.
We hope you found our content valuable and we appreciate your support. If you have not already, please check out our channel and hit the subscribe button.
And your comments and suggestions help us to create the content you're here for. Hitting the like button helps to support our channel's algorithm and gauge your interest for future shows.